Hi, good morning. Growing up as the son of a scientist meant I learned a lot of things, whether I wanted to or not. My father took every opportunity to explain the science behind all the things around us. How the freezer chilled water, why balloons stayed in the air longer than footballs, why watermelons had more seeds than mangoes, why I never needed more than one egg a day. Every object, every event, every occurrence was an opportunity for my father to explain some scientific principle to me. And even if I never found a practical use for most of what he told me, strangely, a lot of it stuck in my memory. Now, I don't know whether it's because of my naturally rebellious nature or my inexplicable need to push boundaries just to see what happens. But for some reason, the one thing that my father taught me about science, which I have remembered and applied in my life to date, is this: every law of science can be broken. And it's absolutely true. Gravity exists, yet birds fly. A pebble will sink into water, yet a log will float on it. God has given us examples in nature of how the physical laws that govern us can be broken. It was almost as if God was trying to send us a message. You know, the ancient Egyptians, they saw how logs floated and it inspired them to create ships. The Wright brothers watched birds soar through the air and figured out how to make aeroplanes. Alexander Wolcott observed the behavior of light on different surfaces and it led him to create the camera. Electricity, the telephone, the internet, all these wondrous creations were fashioned by people who studied the laws of science and then broke them to create something new. I think God's message to us is actually quite simple, and those who have decoded that message are the ones who have gone on to become the greatest people in human history. My dear friend, this method of achieving success applies to us too, you and me. No matter what stage in life or what profession we're in today, there are natural laws that are recognized by the people around us. Drivers do not become CEOs in your company, right? Security guards do not get master's degrees, right? Kids from your village don't go to university, right? People with no money don't start businesses. Convicted criminals do not become pastors. Poor men don't stand a chance with beautiful women. There seems to be natural laws all around us, setting the limits for our potential and prescribing the boundaries for our progress. Everyone around us ascribes to these laws, and so we do too. What we don't realize is that these laws are robbing us of our destinies. Every great person has achieved their success by doing what others were not prepared to do, by staying up later, by practicing longer, by praying deeper, by studying harder, by saving more money, by sacrificing more leisure time, by running farther, climbing higher, shooting straighter, and working harder than everyone else was prepared to. The secret to success is not as complicated as you might think. You just have to believe that you are better than your competitors and then do better than your competitors. Look at the natural laws by which they have limited themselves and break those laws to achieve your success. Today the message is simple. Every natural law can be broken. It's about time you realized that and started tearing down the walls between you and your destiny of greatness. Remember, gravity exists, yet birds fly. Don't let anyone or anything tell you that you can't succeed. There's no rule without an exception. There's no physical law that can't be broken. You are the exception that breaks the rule. So stand up for your dreams and stand out from your peers. My name is Kojo Yankson, and my goals defy logic. But what power has logic over dreams? Good morning, Ghana.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News. I am Apito CBD. Now, police in Accra have announced the arrest of 2 people in connection with the weekend's violent clashes in the Ododo-Diodo constituency. Video footage shared online showed supporters of the 2 leading parties, NPP and NDC, trading missiles amid the firing of gunshots. At least 1 building was vandalized. Accra Region Police PRO DSP Fiatenge says the police is pursuing all those responsible for the violence.
The Ododo-Diodo constituency, that was last Sunday. The Jamestown police have been able to identify and arrest 2 persons whom we suspect had incited violence or they were part of the rioting that took place on Sunday. Earlier, I had mentioned that some names have been picked up and that the police was working thoroughly on those names. And so these two persons were arrested just this afternoon. There's even one that we have still contacted that he says he'll be joining or he'll be coming. So we are exploiting all other avenues to ensure that persons whose names have appeared on our records of having caused the disturbances at the Ododo constituency would be arrested for due cause to follow.
And so far, have both parties, the presidential and parliamentary candidates, been invited to make sure they speak to their people so peace will prevail?
Yes, right after the incident, the division had to invite both of them for a meeting. First of all, to find out what has gone wrong, what really happened, because all we know is a disturbance. So we really needed to know what really occasioned that disturbance. And they had assured us that they'll be coming. One of them was engaged and that he promised to come, but he was asking that if we could reschedule the time to make him available on that meeting. So we are expecting to meet all of them. It is also part of our processes as well.
So my understanding is that so far the NDC parliamentary candidate, Nina Zevanda, has reported. Yesterday he told us he was reporting to the headquarters, but the NPP parliamentary candidate has not.
Oh, I am not aware. In fact, according to what the commander says, in fact, he made a very reasonable excuse of why he couldn't come. And I think that was reasonable. I think it's not for me to announce that here. But he has given us that assurance that we should reschedule. He didn't tell us he's not coming. All he said was because of 1, 2, 3, we should just reschedule the time to make it convenient for him to also come. So we expect that we meet the two of them, not just one person to be met before later we meet another person. So there's an arrangement in that way.
You indicated earlier that you are engaged the traditional leaders of the area.
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has condemned the weekend clashes between supporters of the governing NPP and the opposition NDC in the Ododo constituency. For him, it is those without a message who resort to violence and intimidation. Addressing a Dubai organized by the Ga Traditional Council at Jamestown as part of his tour of the Greater Accra region, President Akufo-Addo called for a total rejection of electoral violence before, during and after the general elections.
We want peace in Accra. Shikia wafo. Bahamu femo gbene acho edwemomi. Je no kona no ye.
The election is about expressing your views and making a choice. There's no need to fight. Only those who have nothing to offer foment trouble. If you have a good message, you sell it, rather than being violent. I'm pleading with you. We want peace during the elections. The world is watching us, and we have to behave properly.
Basa was more basa here. No, I face the 7th of December. Ghana, Africa Fair, World Fair in Kwawo. It's an amen nakesi wo yi owo he. Ni wo ba fe no miliakesi Ghana be na bibio komeye. Ni ame icho ben papa ana ame jon na kema jeni bi anae.
Away from that, 80,000 poor and vulnerable persons in the Greater Accra region are homeless. This is according to the Ghana National Household Registry. This figure represents twice the full capacity of the Accra Sports Stadium. According to the GNHR, 62% of the vulnerable individuals were female, with about 50 aged between 18 and 39. Georgia Kwaba now reports that in spite of growing homeless statistics, government has not done enough to provide housing for the vulnerable.
When night falls in Accra, many people have no beds to sleep on.
Many of the people you see here come from different parts of the country. They're all here, united on the streets of Accra, so that they can make money and send money back home to their families. With no place to lay their heads, they slum it hard on the streets.
Simple mats and cloths, the homeless try to get comfortable on cold concrete floors. Some mothers use their cloth to cover their children while they lay close to them on their mats. They huddle together so they can protect each other on the streets. The growling sounds from vehicles on the streets and car lights streaming on them on the pavement of the graphic road, the homeless can still afford to sleep.
Baby says, when you come here, when you're baby in there. See,
that is Helena. She came from Accra in the Ekumfi district of the Central Region. She came with 7 friends, and their main aim is to make some money and go back home. They use public washrooms and carry their clothes with them as they go about hawking lime during the day. Ghana's current housing deficit stands at 2 million. Many families, together with their children, sleep out in the open. In fact, there are children here who have never slept in a room and lived their lives on the streets. The Kwame Nkrumah interchange is home to many homeless at night. Evelyn Esilfi is one of them. She comes from Abuesi in the Western region, but according to her, poverty forced her to relocate to Accra to eke out a living, but she's yet to find respite. Evelyn and her son sleep close to a stranger to ward off attackers.
But because of higher hunger, and I'm so much about me a palano. And the Senate and Kate Nasa 70 Pabon in Bimpo say, I'm your crime team of Bonibia. I'm a banana by yellow ada. So I can't done because of malaria. No, I'm in the coy.
Hopes to start selling soon so she can afford to cater for her son.
So, and Antonabia, in your Jumani Binabia say,
data collated by the Ghana National Household Registry indicate that 80,000 people and vulnerable persons in the Greater Accra region are homeless. This figure represents twice the full capacity of the Accra Sports Stadium. According to the Ghana National Household Registry, 62% of the vulnerable individuals were female, with about 50% aged between 18 and 39, and about 20% between 40 and 59. It also revealed 60% of these vulnerable individuals sleep in kiosks, containers, markets, uncompleted structures, and on the streets. Some also sleep at the beaches, exposing themselves to natural hazards. Various governments have failed to tackle shelter for people who cannot afford accommodation. The New Patriotic Party, in its 2016 manifesto, said it will provide affordable houses for all.
What's your track record in this area? In the last 4 years, how many housing units have you delivered?
Well, the MPP government has not delivered like mainstream, like the Ministry of Works and Housing has not delivered mainstream serious housing units because of, obviously, the financial space. You see, let me tell you why the MPP government is stressing strong that it is our second term that we will see a massive housing rollout. It's because of what we call the inherited troubles that we came to it.
NDC government also started a Sagleme affordable housing, which remain unoccupied. That does not also target the poor. So what happens to the poor who cannot pay 2 years rent advance? Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
They reaffirmed their bragging rights in the National Science and Maths quiz after winning the competition for a record 6th time this year. President Akufo-Addo has already crowned them the undisputed kings of NSMQ. But after they thrilled the nation with their scientific and mathematical supremacy, the Presec boys got a treat of their lives last weekend when they cruised on the Volta Lake as part of their winning package. PSC Nanaya Safo was there.
You'll be a program no. So me se krompona me be frame aka chen say and we na cool intino. Because you be a me near that je cry, but if I have to put it there and I just say we will meet you on Accra, just say 1 minute we could meet me who may be around 3 dua. Just say I have to be there.
The tour by Adansi Travels was under a package dubbed Dam City Escape and was in collaboration with Primetime Limited, Dodi World and the Volta Hotel. The NSMQ winners were thrilled to be in Akwemufie, but that was only the beginning of a colorful 3-day experience.
Hello? Hello there.
By the time they had gone through the Abri Gardens, felt the breeze of the Dodi cruise and conquered Ghana's highest mountain, Afajatu, amongst others, they had come to appreciate a new level of nature. Some facts came as a surprise.
From Equatorial Guinea back to Ghana here in those days was 6 weeks journey by sea. And also, due to low technology in those days, they were not having the aeroplane for the traveling. So if it was true that Tetakwashi swallowed the cocoa beans, would he visit the washroom? It is never true that Tetakwashi swallowed the cocoa beans before he brought it.
Others were a little scary.
Don't forget that we have snakes here, and then other animals that they are not likely to see. So just follow the rules. You don't stay alone.
And some even seemed familiar.
You guys are before zebras right now. I mean, that doesn't remind you of anything at all. Oh yeah. Oh, it does. Yes. Very good. Share that with us. Oh yeah, they are disco boys.
But the boys from Presec Legon enjoyed all of it, and they got to do so with some of their quiz mistresses who tested their fitness. The new kings on the block could not hide their excitement when they spoke to Joy News.
It's been an exciting experience. Yeah, from, as I said, from day one up to this time, the cruising was superb. Superb. We've enjoyed the cruising from.
Which one was the biggest highlight for you?
The live band was excellent.
We've had fun, gone places I haven't been to before, and educating in the sense that, especially the Akosombo Dam, we taught how it works, how it operates, and even the Dodi Princes to how the operations come about. So yeah, we've learned a lot and we've had a lot of fun.
Which one did you enjoy the most?
Climbing the Afajatu mountain.
It has been very exciting and very educative. Yeah. So I've really enjoyed it, and also it has helped me to network more than before. Because when we went to, I think, Akosombo, I was able to meet some old boys and I took their number. Yeah, so I'm going to follow up.
Our final word as champions, we would like to appreciate the work of our fellow teammates who couldn't be here with us. They did very well. They really helped us, and they are the reason why we are here today. So we'd like to appreciate them, our teammates, and also our teachers who couldn't make it, and Presec, the entire Presec fraternity. We'd like to appreciate them.
They may or may not be dethroned next year. The Presbyterian Boys Secondary School Legon are still celebrating 6. PSC Nanaya Safo, Joy News.
And that's how we end the AMUs. I'm Apisa CBD. The show continues with Mama V and Benjamin. Enjoy.
A warm welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for the news review. We're going to dig into the papers, the major headlines this morning, and check out some of the stories. But right before we do that, Mama V Osuabaja, my colleague, is going to connect with us from the Kempinski Hotel. Mama V, can you hear me? Mama V, can you hear me? Right, so I'm going to start with my stack of papers, and Mama V is going to connect with us as we dig into them. But I start with the Ghanaian Times, a newspaper, and this morning it says, Zongo Development Minister hands over Chibi AstroTurf. And then 9 CSOs go to court over Dome level. This one is becoming a very feisty matter, Martin Kwebu, in the mix of things there. President inspects work on Obechebi Lamte interchange. And then GJA SIC set up 20 million Ghana cedi insurance cover for journalists. So that is 500 of the journalists. And that's something that, God willing, I shall delve into. BP's ambassadors, religious leaders, appealed to Ghanaians in run-up to December 7 polls. Let me go to the middle spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And it says, so it actually captures that story about the president inspecting work on the Obechebi Lamte interchange, but it also says BP's ambassadors, that story there as well. On the back page, president gives STC 100 buses to expand services. Nanakomia in the mix, and SIC institutes that package. So that is for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Mama V, if you can hear me, you can start with your stack of papers. All right. So the Daily Guide is the next one I'm going to do. Chiefs set record straight. Now, you know, there was some reportage with regard to some of these chiefs having, said that the president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, should leave their territory. But they have come to actually debunk that. And they are saying that is, in fact, not the case. So there's a bit of a rebuttal right there. Continuing with the Daily Guide, witness defends Lithovid report. It's all about the Stephen Opuni case. You remember that one, Kokobot in court still. HIPIC report fake. That's according to government. Now, there was an interesting interaction yesterday with, Sami Jemfi, communications director of the NDC, and Kojo Opon-Kroma, Minister of Information. Quite a bit of a banter there, back and forth, but at least there's been some, reportage or some response from the IMF. We'll dig into that later. Nana outdoors 100 STC buses. When you go to the back page of the Daily Guide newspaper, it says Decathlon GFA strike deal. The Decathlon, the sports company, the manufacturing company. Then Mourinho bemoans player phone obsession. It's an interesting one. He's jokingly bemoaned today's obsession with phones as his Tottenham stars were all spotted staring at their devices in the dressing room in the aftermath of their hard-fought victory at Burnley. And I guess that's one that we all struggle with nowadays, phones, social media. But it can become an addiction. I hope you're aware of that. Well, lifting AFCON, my priority. That's Kurt, I should say, Okraku, the GFA president. And then Arsenal Chiefs fight over Partey transfer. So let's attempt now to connect with Mamavi Owusu Abwaji. Like I indicated earlier, she is at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City in central Accra. And we're going to actually get all the brief from her when it comes to the VRA at 60. Mamavi, can you hear me? All right, so as and when we can connect, we shall cross over to Mamavi. The Daily Dispatch is the next paper I'm going to be looking at from here. Supreme Court, Mamavi? Okay. The Daily Dispatch says Supreme Court declares Justice Wuni was biased towards Kennedy Ejapong. Now, this is the second time I'm seeing this story in 2 days. And so the Daily Dispatch reiterating that story from days ago. Then when you turn to page 11, it says, no presidential candidate can win 2020, that is election 2020, with nearly 1 million votes margin. Now, Ben Efson, pollster renowned, is at it again, and he is making that very audacious statement there. Other stories in the paper. No political party constructed Perez Dome. That's according to Bishop Ajanasari. Now, in recent times, there have been some claims that the Perez Dome was actually constructed for him by some political party. He has come out forcefully to reject that claim. And then MPP and NDC must provide 3 million nose masks for their supporters. Then meet the Ghanaian YouTuber who quit his aeronautical engineering job to tell the African story. You should find out more about him. His name, Wode Maya, and we'll be taking a look at his story as well. The publisher, the new publisher, says our People's Manifesto has aroused sleepy Akufo-Addo. That's according to former President Mahama. Then Ghana not back to HEPIC. That's according to Opon Kroma. I'm sure you've been following the discourse. You can read between the lines and maybe share with us later on the show where you think we are. 76.7% debt to GDP ratio. That is what is projected for the end of the year. Currently, we're hovering around 68%. Uneasiness when it comes to our financial matters. Police explain Asawase swoop, and then Gabi grabs $1 million as he wins PDS defamation suit. That actually has to do with something that social commentator Kelvin Taylor, who finds himself in the United States, said. And let's cross over now to the Kempinski Hotel. Mamavi is on the line. Mamavi, if you can hear me, can we start with your newspapers?
Okay, well, hopefully there's a better sound connection this time around. I've got 4 newspapers that I'm paper on the front page. Show us one paramount thing they did for Zongo's Boniface Des NDC. Reaffirm support for Zanato. And then court slaps Kelvin Taylor with $1 million Ghana cedis damages in favor of Gabi Ochre Dako. And this defamatory comments is about the terminated power distribution service. Also, Ghana not back to HEPIC, government clarifies. And this big one, CSOs fight Akufo-Addo over Domolovo's proceed on leave directive. And it says pressure is piling up on the president, Akufo-Addo, to reverse his recent decision directing the Auditor General, Daniel Domolovo, to proceed on leave. Some 9 civil society organizations in the country have therefore dragged the Attorney General to the Supreme Court to challenge the legal basis of the president. Press newspaper on the back page, some sports stories. Chebi gets new ultra-modern AstroTurf. Dreams FC drags Yaboating Jan to GFA for false accusation. That's basically what's on the front back page. Let's move on to the Daily Graphic. Front page of the Daily Graphic today, I'll create sustainable jobs for youth. That's according to John Dramani Mahama. Ghana not declared HEPIC upon Kroma. IMF line here. Ashanti Regional Spotlight to be launched. Daily Graphics own events. And I won't go beyond 25 ministers. That's the only independent candidate. Class. But if you go to page of the NDC, former President John Dramani Mahama has said he will focus December 7 presidential elections. And right under that story, also on page 16, you'll find the only independent presidential candidate saying that with 16 regions, he would not need more than 25 ministers if he is elected as president of the nation.
Right, so we're back. We can't hear the sound from Mama Vio Abaji at the Kempinski Hotel. So we'll just proceed from here, as and when we can reconnect, we'll go back to her. The Ghanaian publisher this morning saying, Boniface mocks NDC. Show us one paramount thing you've done for the Zangos. And then Baumiato Afram Plains constituents. MPP won't disappoint you like the NDC has done for 28 years. Akufo-Addo presents 100 buses to the SDC. That's a recurring story. And 5 ministers tout the NPP's regional achievement. So that's with the Ghanaian publisher newspaper. I'll wrap up with some business stories, especially relevant on a day like this. So port activities see further decline as international trade suffers. Then Bharti Airtel to exit Ghana Telecom's market. That's a very interesting one because there's a bit of a buyout that we are hearing of. We'll find out whether indeed we're going to take those shares for Ghana. And then cocoa farmers in Wassa resort to galamsey money to maintain farms. Finally, on the front page, that story about the president handing over 100 buses. But when you go to the back page of the Business and Financial Times online, it says SNIT launches 2020 Mobile Service Week in Takrady. Kwawoma Rural Bank provides comprehensive financial service. So those are some of the stories on the front pages and the back pages of the newspapers we have for you today. I think from my end, I'm going to start by delving into the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and as and when we can connect with Mama Vishi, we'll also take some stories. But let me turn to page 13 now, and I'm just going to take two short stories from there. The first one says, "Be peace ambassadors." Religious leaders appeal to Ghanaians in run-up to December polls. And the story says some religious leaders in the country have urged Ghanaians to be peace ambassadors during and after the December 7, 2020 elections. Now, speaking against the backdrop of simmering tension in the country ahead of the general elections, the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, Most Reverend Philip Name, suggested that campaigns should be devoid of insults and inciting statements that could lead to divisions among the citizenry. He said Ghana has earned itself the accolade as the beacon of democracy, peace and stability in the West African sub-region, and indeed was gaining that recognition globally. But this is the point that I would want to make as far as this is concerned. No country is so peaceful that it can't degenerate into a lack of peace. And I've always cited, the examples of Rwanda, which was hitherto in the 90s before the genocide considered one of the most peaceful countries in Africa. You can talk about Kenya. You can talk even about Ethiopia and the problems they faced in recent times. So nothing to take for granted. But why is it that as a country, whenever we have elections, every 4-year cycle, we're sitting on pins and needles? It doesn't really happen in other advanced, democracies. And that is something that I feel we ought to, politically grow out of. But I guess teething problems for a young democracy. So that's the first story I'll take a look at. But Domelevo is back in the mix, the Auditor General. And the story says 9 CSOs go to court over Domelevo. And they are the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, the Ghana Integrity Initiative, the Citizen Ghana Movement, Africa Center for Energy Policy, Parliamentary Network Africa, Pen Plus Bytes, Media Foundation for West Africa, Send Ghana, and the One Ghana Movement. Now, their question is simple. They are asking the Apex Court to rule that the directive issued by the presidency asking Mr. Domelevo to proceed on leave is inconsistent with the letter and spirit of the Constitution. They also want the court to declare that the appointment or designation of Johnson Ekwuamwa Asiedu, who is the acting Auditor General, is void and of no legal effect. Now, this is the second suit, mind you, to hit government on this entire saga. And some 90 pages that Mr. Kwebu presented at the court. That is the case of the CSOs on the legal capacity of the CSOs to file the suit, their reliefs and facts of the case, as well as legal arguments. So those are some of the stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper that I want to take. Mamavi, can you hear me? If you're back on the line, give me a shout and let's hear from you. Okie doke, I shall proceed from here. And as and when we can connect, because she has some very interesting stories there as well, we shall proceed from there. But this one too, the Daily Guide newspaper this morning, with that story, the HIPIC report fake, according to government. You should have listened to the banter yesterday between Sami James-Fi and Kojo Nkrumah. And the story says, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has dismissed claims that Ghana has applied for the highly indebted poor countries program of the International Monetary Fund, saying the claims are absolutely false. Now, there has been an attempt to create the impression that Ghana is going back to the debt relief program, and recent media reports have suggested that President Akufo-Addo has taken Ghana back to HIPIC due to what they claimed to be gross economic mismanagement, but the minister said the reports were fake. So how did this come about? How is it that it's back in the picture? I'll tell you exactly how. In recent times, former President John Dramani Mahama stirred the hornet's nest at the La Palm Royal Beach Hotel in Accra just this past Monday, when he berated the NPP for always saying that he left nothing in the kitty. If I may just quote a bit of what he said. He says, contrary to the impression created by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that he inherited nothing from me and that he inherited a mess, I left him revenue from 2 new oil fields, the 10 field and ENI Sankofa fields. I left him with $270 million in the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. I left him with more than $207 million in the Stabilization Fund and about $300 million in the sinking fund, with which the final payment of the Kufuor Eurobond was paid on maturity in 2017. So it goes on and on. There's a bit of a historical antecedents when it comes to HIPIC there as well. So a whole lot to grapple with. In fact, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I should say the vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, had been posting on this in the lead up to the 2016 elections. I'll just find that social media post and run it by you. Some of the very interesting things he said at the time, which maybe do not augur well for what is happening now. But let's quickly check out My Joy online. We're going online now to check out some of the stories there. And court summons Kennedy Ejapong over assassination claims against Ato Forson, Cassio Ato Forson of the National Democratic Congress. More to check out from that story. Then there's this one. We have not classified Ghana as HIPIC. That's the IMF confirming that. Election 2020. Police assures peace in the Ashanti region. And there's also this one. Gabi Asariotre Dakon wins 1 million cedi defamation suit against Kelvin Taylor. Then there's also, in terms of roads, Chamber of Construction Industry gives government ultimatum to pay its members. And you know about those contractors, a lot of them who have not received payment for work done. Ododo Dio constituency attack is unacceptable, must be condemned. Yesterday, His Excellency the President saying that's Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, new UN report details environmental impacts of used vehicles. We use a lot of them here in Ghana, and at a point in time, that policy to ban them, or at least those who are overaged to ban them, not quite. It didn't work out. Now, Akufo-Addo-led government inherited over $270 million under my watch, under my administration. That is according to former President John Dramani Mahama. So we're going to check out the BBC as well, find out what exactly is happening on the BBC. So Biden hits new battleground. Trump blitzes Midwest. It's campaign season and it's full blast from the two candidates, the Democrat and the Republican. Now, Joe Biden has blasted Donald Trump as a con man while the president promises economic survival. In other stories, Qatar to investigate invasive exams of women, and Australia has expressed anger over the airport incident, which had aimed to check if women had given birth. So some discrimination there. Cable may have started Orange County fire. That one in Southern California. You know, California is prone to these fires year in, year out. Fighting rooster kills Philippines police officer. Talk of a gory way to go. Curious. And Kim Kardashian humbly hosts private island party. So it is a wrap as far as the news review is concerned. We'll be connecting with Mama Vio Wusu at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City in Accra. Some shots that you saw right there. But right now, it's a wrap. Sports is up next with Oreku Ampofo. Do stay tuned.
Well, that last game was between Manchester City and Marseille in France. And after the game, Marseille coach Andre Villas-Boas did say that if he had Pep Guardiola's money and was called Pep Guardiola, then certainly you would expect more possession and maybe a better result from Marseille. But it was Manchester City who did get the 3 points on the night. But today, we'll be having Chords B of the Champions League. And let's take a look at fixtures for the day. So we'll be starting with Chelsea traveling to Russia to face Krasnodar, and then Istanbul BK host Paris Saint-Germain, with Sevilla also hosting Stade Rennais. And then Lazio travel to face Club Brugge as Dortmund look to get their first points of the Champions League season as they play against Zenit St. Petersburg. Ferencváros would be playing against Dynamo Kiev, and the big one, Juventus face FC Barcelona, but they would be without Cristiano Ronaldo, and the last match of the day would be between Nagelsmann's Leipzig as they face Manchester United at Old Trafford. Well, from Europe, let's now move to Ghana, where we're still building up to the Ghana Premier League, which kicks off in November 13th. And the Club Licensing Board of the Ghana Football Association has approved 8 venues and rejected 10 after inspecting the sports facilities proposed by the Premier League clubs across the country after the first inspection. We do have more for you in the following report.
Clubs were granted conditional approvals pending the completion of requirements for a full license. The 10 clubs will have their venues re-inspected by the Club Licensing Board before a decision on whether they are deemed qualified enough to host matches is taken. Of the 8 approved venues, 5 clubs, House of Oak, Inter Allies, Legon Cities, Great Olympics and Kumasi Asante Kotoko will be using the Accra Sports Stadium. The Dansoma Karlendorf Park and Obuasi Lenkley Sports Stadium are among the 10 league centres rejected by the FA. The other venues include the temporal home of Midiame SC, the Akun Park. The Mauve and Yellows had to relocate to a new venue due to the construction of a 10,000 capacity stadium at the Takwa and Abuaso area. Dreams FC's Theatre of Dreams based in Deo also requires re-inspection. Carol's Camp Park, despite the rehabilitation, has not met the requirements yet. Golden City Park, the home venue of former league champions Brekum Chelsea, must be worked on before the next visit of the board. Almina Sharks, Kim Faisal, Tachima 11 Wonders and Bechim United will all have their venues re-inspected. By the rules governing the club licensing, should these clubs fail to meet the requirements, they will be allowed to choose an approved venue near them. However, if the clubs fail to meet the deadline, the Ghana FA will choose a venue for the club that has failed to meet the standards set.
Well, let's try and get a graphical representation of the venues that were accepted and then those which were rejected. And this was the decision by the Club Licensing Board at the GFA. And for those whose stadiums have been approved for the new season, we have Heart of Oak, Inter Allies, Legon Cities, Great Olympics, Asante Kotoko, all would be sharing the Accra Sports Stadium. And the verdict from the licensing board is that that stadium has been approved. Wafers Park has also been approved, as Aduana Stadium has also been approved. Now, for those who unfortunately have been rejected and would need re-inspection, we have the Theatre of Dreams for Dreams FC, Golden City Park for Brekum Chelsea, 11 Wonders is Ohene Amial Park, and then we have Bechim United, Ashanti Gold, King Faisal, Elmina Sharks, Liberty Professionals, Karela United, and Midiames Akun Park, all fallen short of the Club Licensing Board's expectations. Well, we still stay on the Ghana Premier League, and Great Olympics head coach Anna Walker has expressed the readiness of his outfit ahead of the start of the new Ghana Premier League season. According to him, the playing body has responded positively since training resumed, and we have more in the following report by Joy Sports' Haruna Mubarak.
Out of the Ghana Premier League, Great Olympics are training intensely as they seek to start the campaign. On a good note, head coach of the club, Anna Walker, declares his squad ready for the upcoming season.
Of course, yes. That's why we started training.
because we are getting ourselves ready for the Premier League, and we are ready. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your new signings. I understand that about 10 players or even more have joined the club. What are they bringing on board?
Okay, in fact, last year we're having some young players and some old players, but unfortunately we've left the old players and we've had some young ones.
It has been close to 20 days since Great Olympics resumed training following government's decision to lift ban on contact sports. Coach Anna Walker is very happy with the way training sessions have gone.
Honestly, like you asked, we trained for this is the 3rd week. We started from here. The whole of last week we were at the beach doing the physical and the hard work at the beach. God willingly, this week we started on the pitch. That is tactical work and my formation that I'm going to play in there. I'm teaching what I'm going to play when the league starts. And my boys are responding very fast, and I'm really happy with what I'm seeing.
Great Olympics travel to Takwa to face Midiama Sporting Club on match day 1 of the Ghana Premier League.
Well, the Joy Sports team would be your hub for the updates in the Ghana Premier League. And on Friday, we'll be bringing you a special show about Hartlepool and their readiness for the Ghana Premier League. Can they break that 10-year drought? And then on Saturday, we conclude the transfer window in the Ghana Premier League as we take a look at the biggest transfers this window. So do make time to join us. But that's how we'll be wrapping up the sports here. My name is Oreko Wampofo. The AM show continues right after this.
With us here on the AM show on Joy News. My name is Mama Vioso Abaji, coming to you live today from the Kempinski Hotel, where the Volta River Authority is set to launch its 60th anniversary. Ahead of that, which will start at exactly 9 a.m., we will carry it live here on Joy News. But ahead of that, I'm sitting down with Engineer Edward Obeng-Kenzo, Director of Thermal Operations, and Dr. Mrs. Stella Ajenim-Boateng, Director of Human Resources and Chairperson of the Anniversary Planning Committee. A very good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Welcome to Joy News and the AM show.
Okay.
So maybe I can start with Dr. Mrs. Stella Ajenim-Boateng. What does this 60th anniversary mean to the Volta River Authority and indeed the workers?
A very good morning to you and to your listeners and the viewers. Indeed, VRA is so excited, this today and in the next couple of months. We are just excited because this is the 60th anniversary. Actually, the 60th birthday falls on the 26th of April, 2021. And so today we are launching the whole celebration. And the reason for excitement, I think it's very obvious. That 60 years in the life of an individual or in the life of a corporate body is really a journey. And most people, most organizations don't live to see their 60th anniversary. But we are not only seeing our 60th anniversary, but we are seeing it standing so strong in the industry, being market leaders, providing for the lives and putting value on the lives of our people. Our people meaning employees, meaning the Ghanaian population, and even external, citizens outside of this nation. And indeed, we are contributing so much to the national development, to the economy, to businesses. And for all these and many other reasons, we are more than excited to be celebrating our 60th anniversary.
Yeah. Engineer Kazo, this institution was established in 1961. It's come a very long way from initially generating, transmitting, distributing to now mainly generating electricity. Tell us a bit about your organization.
Okay, just to pick on from where my colleague director ended, as you said, 1961. VRA was formed under an act called the Water Development Act, 1961, by an act of Parliament, mainly to use the water, that is the Volta River water, to generate electricity. So it was mainly an hydro power generation. That's in 1961. Come 1987, we have to couch out another portion called a distribution company called Netco, which is in the northern region, which serves the northern part of the country. And then come 2005, there was another amendment to the Act by Parliament, which halved off our distribution department, which is now formed a full company called the Great Co Company Limited. That's the Ghana Great Company Limited, who are now taking care of the transmission aspect of the power generation. So mainly VRA for now, we are mainly into the power generation and then distribution in the northern part of the country. But VRA over the period of time diversified into other areas. We've moved from the hydro to now more of a sustainable power generation. That is using the thermal, mainly using gas. And then we are now into solar. Going into the future, we are going into wind power. So that's where VRA is moving to. And we think that will still continue to power the homes of the people in this country and beyond this country and make their life comfortable.
Great. Let's talk about the human resource, because that's your area. What kind of human resource do you have at the Volta River Authority?
So we are such a diverse workforce. We have all professions, I will say, in VRA. We have our skilled engineers. We have our skilled engineers. We have all kinds of professions, because one thing about VRA is that power generation is our main focus. However, we have other businesses in our subsidiary, and therefore we have all the professions that are serving not just the power generation activities, but also all the other businesses. So we have healthcare, we have hospitals in all our locations, we have schools in all our locations, we have hospitality, so Volta Hotel, we have the Volta Lake Transport Company, we have home farms, and many others. And so in each of these subsidiaries, which form the big VRA, we have all skilled employees. And one of our key strategic pillars, in this business is the fact that we build, we nurture, and we develop our human capital. And so anybody who enters VRA, be sure that your career, your development, training, it's a giving, because we invest in people. And so if you want the best engineers, if you want the best, finance people, human resource, whatever, teachers, hospital staff, doctors, nurses, paramedical, lawyers, any kind of profession, don't look beyond VRA, because that is where we bring the right skill, we develop the skill, and we move the skill beyond what anybody can imagine.
Great. Engineer Kenza, I want to ask if COVID, as Director of Thermal Operations, did COVID have any impact on your work at all?
I would say no. I would say that when this pandemic set in, management set up a committee, a task force, which made it possible and ensure that we have all the protocols in place to make sure staffs were being taken care of. Our facilities are also running. It's not only generation, across the whole spectrum of the company. And I could say that there were also programs put in place to ensure that staffs were not crowded in the offices. So we were running more of a two-shift. Half of the staff will be at home, whilst another half are working, and make sure that they don't come in together also when they are changing over shift, so that there will be no transmission of the diseases. And I could say up to date, we are still running our power plants, and we are still providing electricity to the homes of everybody in this country.
Just so you can break things down for us, when we talk about thermal operation or generation, what exactly are we talking about?
Okay, hydro. Per name, hydro means water. Thermal means heat. So in thermal generation, what we normally do, we convert liquid fuel, gas fuel into power generation. So we burn liquid fuel or gas fuel to turn turbines to generate electricity. So in hydro, it's water that flows through to generate electricity. So that's why we use the word thermal, because of the heat that is used in generating the power.
Okay, I'll have a lot of conversations on that details a bit later on. But Auntie Stella, just before we wrap up, explain what is going to happen here this morning.
All right. So today, as I said from the initial conversation, is the launch of our 60th anniversary, and this anniversary is under the theme celebrating 60 years in the power business, our legacy, our future. This theme is very apt and carefully chosen because we know the legacy that we as VRA has bequeathed to this nation and what we look forward to enjoying. So we think that today it's going to be a celebration of what has happened in the past, what we are doing today, and what we intend to do in the future, all for national development. We are expecting many dignitaries to be at this launch.
You have a special guest. Are you disclosing?
Sorry?
You have a special guest coming. Are you telling us who the person is?
I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you because, we want everybody to be glued to, Joy News TV because we want you to experience what is going to happen today. So many exciting, events and activities as we roll even after today, because this is going to be a celebration from today as we launch till the end of April 2021, when we actually celebrate our 60th birthday. And so just be glued to VRA any day, anytime you hear about VRA, there will be something exciting, something spectacular, in connection with our anniversary celebration.
Well, happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're ending this conversation here, but I'll bring you plenty more in the main event hall where this 60th anniversary launch will be taking place. I'm handing it over to my colleague Benjamin Akapo in the studio. You're still watching the AM show. Please do stay with us.
Well, thank you very much, Mama Vio Wusuabwaje. Looks like you're having a lot of fun there. That's what it appears to be. Well, she's at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City. She was interacting with some of those staff members at the Volta River Authority. 60 years. We'll be crossing over there later on the show. But a whole lot has happened on the campaign trail. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is also expected in Parliament today to give a budget statement, sort of to guide the next government for at least the first 3 months, first quarter in 2021. Well, we have joining us in the studio, Kwejo Edu Asare, former Member of Parliament for Adenta. We're also going to be interacting with Abena Osei Asare, Deputy Finance Minister and Member of Parliament for Etiwa East, to help break down those issues that ought to be spoken of. So without further ado, let me go ahead to welcome Kwejo Edu Asare. Thank you very much for joining us on the AM show.
Pleasure is mine.
Could you just speak up a little for us so we can, enjoy your fantastic voice? I know you're a fiery character. So what exactly has been happening on the campaign trail as far as the NDC is concerned? You are in the Greater Accra region now. Mm-hmm. How have the people of the Greater Accra region received the NDC?
Well, good morning to your viewers. And I think things are going very well. The flag bearer is in Greater Accra at the moment. And we started from the eastern part of the country, or the Greater Accra region, that is precisely from the Adan side. So I think we'll be coming towards the western part or the central part of Accra from that side. And so far, things are going very well. I believe that the works of the former president, for that matter, the flag bearer, in the past, let's say before the 2016 elections, whatever works he did is being brought to bear in this campaign. People didn't know much, I can say, in the last 4 years, because the media, I would say, didn't give us as much publicity in terms of the development or developmental projects that the former president undertook.
But you gave yourself enough publicity. You had the Green Book, for example.
Oh, of course, we did that.
It was everywhere in the media.
You see, today you can tell that the media is even, whilst we are even in opposition, we in opposition are more popular because the media is interested more in our projects than the current government, because at the time they did not give us what, if they had done that in the last before the 2016 elections, the emphasis wouldn't be on us at the moment, because today everybody wants to, everybody is interested in what the NDC did. But there is nothing, or I won't say nothing, there's not a lot to show after so much, noise being made about sloganeering, one district, one factory, one village, one dam, was there
1 million per constituency.
1 million per constituency per year.
Yeah.
Usually you guys forget about the per year bit of it. And also the other one is what? Planting for food and jobs. You talk about slogans, slogans, slogans. Now that people are calling for the real projects, people want to see the effect of that 140 billion Ghana cedis that has been borrowed vis-a-vis other accruals from the oil sector, and also revenues that have been collected in the past 4 years. People are asking for the very things that have been done with those figures. And there's not so much to show. Now the emphasis is coming on us as a former government. That is how come the former president, or let me say the flag bearer, is receiving accolades from most of the areas we have been. I mean, sometimes you have to be there to really appreciate the things people are saying. And some of us who have been on the campaign trail with him, especially in the 2016 elections, the very things we heard then, we are hearing them today. But
what are some of those things?
Oh, like almost every place we go, oh, you did this for us, you built a bucket for us, you did a road, you built a school for us, you gave us water, all manner of projects. Okay, and if you took time to, I was just reading something before I got in here, that somebody was asking, the few universities that we've had in the last 10 years or so have all come from the NDC.
Right.
This government just came in, let's say 4 years ago, but before that, the before government was here around for 8 years. You ask what has been their contribution in education, for instance, and apart from the fact that
Mr. Edua, sorry, let me just
apart from the fact that they brought in this free SHS project.
You see nothing else that they've done in respect of education?
Oh, it's not that significant compared to what the NDC has done. So now people are putting the two parties on the scale. So
I've heard your party, the NDC, talk about, health facilities, educational facilities, and all of that. The question, though, is, are these, the only developmental angles that we can look at? Yes, they form part of, the conglomerate, if you like, of development. But there's more to it. Think about a healthy economy, for instance, and that is one of the things that this administration is touting. Are you looking at that angle as well?
Are you telling me that the health of this current economy is better than what it has been, or what it was
per the figures,
in 2016?
The figures that have been put out there, they actually point in some way. When you look at, the growth of our GDP,
please,
when you look at,
I don't know which GDP. I don't know which GDP you are looking at, because it is the same finance minister when he brought he came to Parliament with the mid-year review. We all heard the indices that he presented to Parliament. Right. The fact that GDP growth for this year is targeted at 0 point.
But you know why that is? It's been indicated that it's on the back of COVID.
You see, that is where we are. So you can, whether it is COVID or whatever, we have had other shocks. Okay, right. We've been through other shocks as a country, and we have had to pay the price for whatever those shocks presented to us. So if COVID is presenting a certain shock, that is the reality. So one cannot say because of COVID, that means that somebody is doing better, or somebody could have done a lot better, or whatsoever. Every other country in this world, in one way or the other, suffered some jolt with COVID. almost every other country in this world. But some countries are doing better. I'm sure if we all Google, the growth of countries across Africa, there are countries that will be even experiencing better growth patterns than what we are seeing.
I'll tell
today.
you this for a fact, though. Yikai, for example, the Chinese entity, came out recently with some research pointing to the fact that when you look at countries that are doing well on the back of COVID-19 and handling their economies, Ghana is one of the top 4 countries. How do you react to that? It means that even while we're battling COVID...
In what sense?
Even while we're... So in handling, on one level, in handling, controlling COVID-19, and on the second level, in controlling the impact of COVID-19 on the economy and how the economy is progressing. In fact, Kojo Ponkroma, the information minister, has been saying that we're even ahead of projections when it comes to recovery from COVID-19.
You see, I'm not an economist, and I wouldn't try I wouldn't pretend to be one.
Right.
But we are looking at simple economic that we all experience as families and businesses and so on. If you have your banking sector collapsing, 13 banks or so, and you have over 347 microfinance companies collapsing. Do you think it's a way for anybody to say that your economy is getting better?
We were told that was on the back of a very needed purge to cleanse the system.
That is what somebody believes. Some of us don't believe in that, because I think that if you want to, there are two sides to the way you can manage some of these issues. You either have the mind of raising, helping to raise the company, or if you want to crash it, you decide to crash it. They chose to crash it. Some of us would have thought that because there was most of them were indigenous banks, we could have given them a certain oxygen to get them to operate better, probably change the leadership of those banks and inject some sanity and regulations that will help them to be on their feet, rather than to crash them and collapse them. Moreover, they stole all of us, and I'm surprised that most of you media houses are not prying into some of the lies they told Ghanaians. They said when they needed 9 billion to revive, or whatever the word they use, I've forgotten, to sanitize the banking sector, 9 billion. Later they came to us that they've spent close to 22 billion, and nobody is asking what...
Around 21 billion.
21 billion. So nobody is asking what 12 billion has been used for. Nobody is interested in that. And I'm surprised that accountability has become something that we've thrown to the dogs. That somebody says, I can use 9 billion to do something. The person ends up using 2 times plus. And we are just watching, because the money...
We shall delve into more economic matters, especially as today the budget statement is going to be presented. But I just wanted to quickly run this by you. Is it mere coincidence, or is there a strategy on the part of the NDC? Whenever you have the president, the vice go somewhere, you'll see the NDC's vice and the president, the former president, immediately following suit. Is there a strategy to that? We're seeing it even now. Nanado wrapping up, from OT wrapping up in the Greater Accra region, and all of a sudden the NDC is also here. Strategy?
Well, one can easily say so, because you don't want to let the dust settle, because once they go there and throw propaganda around, you have to go and settle the scores. So
it is a strategy?
Well, it may be a coincidence, if I should put it that way, but because we plan these things long before it happens. So one cannot say that it was...
But you can change your plans.
Oh, certainly. But I'm saying that we had this whole program already, on paper.
Right.
So there may be 1 or 2 coincidences, but I wouldn't say that it's going to be like following the trail of the president or the vice president or whatever, because they are both doing crisscrossing the country. So definitely there will be some dovetail of programs,
Right.
and it wouldn't be necessarily.
Let's talk about hotspots, constituencies moving into election 2020. You're a former member of parliament for Adenta. We'll be talking about Adenta shortly, but Ododo is in the mix, and in recent times, with those 4,000 hotspots or flashpoints that the Ghana Police Service put out there, in the Greater Accra region, you would have Ayawaso West Wuogon and Ododo being two of the topmost, constituencies. Pretty much of a worry, but does your party feel even more worried about what Neil Ante Bannerman, parliamentary candidate of the MPP, has been saying about your member of parliament, Neil Ante van der Poy? Now, Bannerman alleges that your candidate is the mastermind behind all the chaos, the strife in Ododo. He says that he foments these things and that he is, in fact, not even a true son of the soil. How do you react to that? Yesterday, His Excellency, the President, was also, sort of following that tangent. How does your party react to that?
You see, I think it's unfortunate that we have a government that is led by a president who himself is not an honest person.
You're calling the president dishonest?
He's not an honest person at all, because you see, an honest person would want to appreciate the real issues on the ground before they make comments. They'll try, even if, because you are not just a partisan leader. You are the leader of the country. Okay, even though you lead your party as well. So if a situation like this arises, what you do is you listen to the two sides of the story and you present a part of the story that will, bring unity after all said and done. But
did you follow what the president said? Because basically he was saying there should be peace in Ododo, and that it is only those without a message who would actually opt for violence. What is wrong with that?
Who is he saying? Who is he speaking to?
Well, I'm sure he's speaking generally to the people, and he was even citing, I believe, his own party. So
that his party doesn't have a message?
No, but he is saying that it is only those without a message. So you feel targeted. That is the NDC he's referring to.
He's targeting the NDC. Do you understand? And that is not how leaders speak, especially in issues like this. Because if we want to also take him on, we will tell him that he is presiding over violence and allowing violence and all manner of insecurity to fester in this country.
How so? Explain.
How so? You were here, you saw the Ayawaso, you yourself just mentioned Ayawaso as one of the flashpoints. What happened in Ayawaso? Everything that took place that day was under the full glare of every Ghanaian and the whole world. Subsequent to that, there was a commission that was set up to investigate whatever took place. Later on, when they came up with their the report. What has happened? Whitewashed. And most of the criminals...
Government responded. There was the white paper response.
Yes, so response doesn't mean the people who perpetrated those acts, the recommendations, and they are just walking free. You think, how would they feel? These are people who are subject to the laws of the land. So if you give them this carte blanche for them to go about doing all manner of things without being checked, this is what happens. Who fired the guns? Don't we know them? Those who fired the guns in Ododo, they are known people.
In this instance, the police has apprehended 2 people, and we await details about who these people are.
For me, I think this, as I said, this leader we have is bad news for this country, and I think Nanado is bad news for this country. If we allowed him another 4-year term, he is going to bring this country backwards. He's going to take this country into an abyss. He will destroy the fabric of the security that we have, or that we enjoy in this country, because arbitrariness would fester in this country, and people, look at what, you all saw it on social media, when, what do you call it, somebody in Aswasi was warning a policeman We saw it. It's on video. An armed policeman. We saw it. Okay, look at the way civilians beat up a soldier.
Which incident are you referring to?
They said they call that place what? Farce or something. When the soldiers went to, I don't know, I hear they went to ransack some village somewhere in Achim, something. Achim people said the land was dead and the guns were
I now recall the incident. The land is...
A soldier in military uniform was beaten. Do you think things should get to this point as a country? No. None is bad news. Let's Ghanaians, please. Those of you listening
we shall proceed from here, but for those of you viewing us, you heard the former Member of Parliament for Adenta, Honorable Edu Asari there, actually saying that His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, one, is dishonest. Those are his words. And he also says the President is bad news for Ghana. Well, we'll see how things pan out in that regard. But moving the conversation forward, I did indicate that Adenta itself has been, named. It has the ignominious position of being one of the flashpoints ahead of election 2020. As a former Member of Parliament, first of all, how do you feel about that classification?
Well, when you say flashpoint, I don't know what exactly the context of it being a flashpoint.
It's been categorized a hotspot ahead of election 2020. Whichever way, we know that the words flashpoint, hotspot are not good news.
Well, I have a different view of that. If it's not good news, then I have a different view.
Because what is your view?
I don't think Adenta has had any such characteristic that one can classify as bad news. We've had tensed competitions over the period.
It is precisely those tense moments.
No, but they were not acrimonious, I would say. It was more like the personalities involved, in terms of the candidates, were tough candidates. But it wasn't as if they created the platform for anything that would be characterized as mayhem or acrimony or whatsoever. No. During my time, I was there with the late Opare Hammond. It was fierce because he was a firebrand MP, or he was seen as a firebrand MP. And I'm also quite a charismatic personality. So when the two of us clashed, it was more like a certain, whatever was created between us. But it wasn't acrimonious. We never had bad words against each other. We only had to straighten things out between us. The next one was Ashimo and Frances Esiam. And that was also another hot competition between the two people. Again, it wasn't acrimonious. There wasn't any violence or anything that anybody can characterize as.
So it's always been fiery, but it doesn't.
This time we are talking about Ramadan and Yabuabi.
Yes.
They were the same contestants in the last election, and these two are still back again this time. And so far,
so it brings me back to my question. Do you feel maybe the labeling of your
I think it's a far-fetched position for anybody to assume. I mean, Adenta has never been a violent place. I mean, no, not at all. I've not seen, I mean, we are a peaceful environment. We have a peaceful environment. Adenta is blessed with, let me say, a cosmopolitan versus rural, that's combination. Right. Okay, because we have the up level people around the Twasakos and the blah blah blah, and then we have the village setting also right around, and we combine very well. We do things without any, I don't think anybody can characterize Adenta in any form with violence or flashpoint. No, I don't see that happening.
Moving forward, now we're heading for December the 7th, and unfortunately we had Ayawaso West Wogon, that by-election. We've seen what has happened in Ododo-Diodio, and it is not a new thing, so to speak, because you go back to 2012, 2016 even, there was a woman who was stabbed at a community engagement around the Bukum Square, Boxing Square, all in the name of politics. You go back to 2012, there were incidents. You go back to before then, there have always more or less been incidents. And Adenta itself may have had its own, minute shares of that. With all of these hotspots, flashpoints that have been identified, what do you think ought to be done to forestall chaos, so to speak, come December the 7th?
You see, the important thing that all of us should be interested in, unfortunately, people have this view that elections are won at the polling station. To some extent, I agree. But you see, if you allow the antecedents of the elections, some of the things that the Electoral Commissioner or the Electoral Commission as a body and its engagement, if you don't pay attention to some of the things they do, you would have lost the elections even before that very day that you have to go and or go to the polls for you to get to that polling station. And these are the things that we are, as a party, we have over the past few months, we've been raising issues concerning, even before the registration exercise started. We had certain issues we raised with the Electoral Commission. The fact that even as we speak today, the IPAC, which is supposed to be a body that also or accepted by the Electoral Commission in one way or the other, so they all jaw about issues regarding elections and national developments when it comes to electoral matters. Today, IPAC has become like
redundant.
It doesn't operate anymore.
But you would accept that the role of IPAC, basically, yes, it's not necessarily constitutional.
Nobody
isn't. It's more ceremonial.
Everybody knows that.
So,
but
and the Electoral Commission is not bound by what IPAC
but
says.
over the years, we all know that with the formation of IPAC and the role it has played, it has kept tensions at a certain point, because most of the decisions that the Electoral Commission took went to the IPAC, and there were consensus that was, they built consensus at that level before those decisions are taken. So nobody sees any arbitrariness against them. But here is the case, minus the IPAC, some political parties feel that they are being, the EC is being arbitrary against them. Okay, so those are the things that are fueling the tensions from a certain direction. So these things, if you don't check them at that level, and you say you want to wait till election day and put security, it would escalate into a certain whatever that we cannot control.
What do you think should be the responsibility of political actors? When you talk about preventing spillovers in constituencies, you can talk about the media, you can talk about other, establishments. But how about you, the political actors, especially the NDC and the MPP? What do you do?
You see, unfortunately, in this case, the NPP seem to have a certain connection with the EC, so they seem to be comfortable.
What connection? Can you establish? Do you have any evidence?
That is how it seems to us, because everything the EC has done so far, they have always been okay with that.
But that is not new.
That is not new.
When the NDC was in power, you were overly supportive of what Charlotte Osei was doing.
Overly?
It is not new. When I say overly supportive, let me just leave it at supportive. But whatever the Electoral Commission, I mean, we can even talk about the logo issue and a number of things. It appears when a certain president nominates, elects, puts in office an electoral commissioner, that president and his party bend over backwards, if you like, to support that person that they nominated as against whoever is in opposition. I mean, that's been the rhetoric, the script that we followed in this country. So it is nothing new, is it?
Which political party appointed Aferijan, and how did that political party benefit from somebody like Aferijan? That I don't think that argument has any legs to stand on, because whatever happened with Charlotte Osei is not what is happening today.
Right.
All right? Whatever happened with Charlotte Osei's period is not what is happening today. Dr. Bawumia said he had a certain number of people who had some 700 and something million people whose name had found, 700 and something thousand or so, who had found their name, foreigners whose names were in the register. And he was going to prove to Ghanaians where those names can be found and all of that. Those were the issues. Tell me what else Charlotte Osei did that you NDC in one, or one can say that NDC was supporting Charlotte Osei.
The point to be made is that whether we're talking BVRs or logos or whatever, it appears the NDC always sided with her. But let's hold on to that conversation. We're joined now by, I'll come back to you on that bit. Since today is a D-Day when it comes to the budget statement, we're going to be joined by Honorable Kweku Kwarteng. He's actually a deputy finance minister. We're just going to check from him what to expect ahead of today's budget statement. He's actually connecting with us now. Honorable, if you can hear me, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to our listeners.
Great. We also have in the studio Edu Asare, Honorable Edu Asare, Member of Parliament for Adenta. Former Member of Parliament for Adenta, actually. But what should we expect ahead of the delivery of the budget statement for the year 2021, the first quarter at least, especially on the back of some of the recent claims that have been made with regard to Ghana going HIPIC again, as former President John Dramani Mahama mentioned, and the projection, by the IMF that we would have hit a debt to GDP, level of 76.7% by end of year. What should we expect in today's budget statement?
Well, thank you. Today, what we are presenting to Parliament, strictly speaking, is not your usual budget. Now, because we are having an election close of the year, and that there is supposed to be a new administration, even if Nanado won again, it will still be a new Nanado administration. Because of that, you do not want the outgoing government to prepare the budget, which is essentially the tool for delivering on your strategies. You do not want the outgoing one to design a budget for the incoming government. Therefore, the requirement in our practice, the Ghanaian practice, is that in an election year, the outgoing government will do what we call expenditure in advance of appropriation. Now, that is put before Parliament and approved. That gives the new administration, which is going to be a Nanado administration, the new Nanado administration, the tool with which to govern whilst we prepare the substantive budget for 2021, which would then have to be done by March in accordance with Article 180 of the Constitution. So, in summary, what we are taking to Parliament today for approval is in accordance with Article 180 of the Constitution, and it is expenditure in advance of appropriation, which will be done hopefully by the Nana Addo administration in March 2021. That's what we're taking to Parliament today.
COVID-19 has battered our economy, and growth projections have fallen, beyond expectations.
I'm having difficulty hearing you. If you can lift your voice a little more.
Honorable Kwarteng, is it better now? Can you hear me
it's
better
now?
I was asking, is there any light at the end of the tunnel, especially considering that our growth projections for the year have been impacted by COVID-19 to levels that were not expected, and all of that? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? What should we expect, in that respect?
Of course, there is light at the end of the tunnel. COVID-19, of course, has disturbed our country and our economy in some ways. But Ghana is not alone in that. Indeed, if you would look at what COVID-19 has done to other economies, Ghana's economy has a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't want to bore you with the statistics, but if you look at the global projections for year-end deficit, that is year-end projections for monies that countries have spent for which they have no revenue, excess of expenditures over revenues across the world today. You take the average, Ghana is doing far better than that average. If you take debt to GDP, how much we have had to borrow as a result of the pressures of COVID-19 against our GDP, again, Ghana's is better than the world average. So there's lots of light at the end of the tunnel for Ghana. Unfortunately, the minister would make hints of it, even though the actual features of the Ghana Cares Over Tampa program in terms of the estimates would come in the main budget in March 2021. Today we would hint about the Ghana Cares program. Now, if Ghana has a recovery plan that would recover us after, as has happened in many countries, the difficulties we've gone through in terms of the fiscal pressures, I am confident that in the medium term, we would fully restore the progress that we're making, but for the disturbances of COVID-19. So there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, but what we're taking to Parliament today, as I indicated, is expenditure in advance of appropriation. They are just, if you like, your revenues and expenditures for the first quarter of next year, whilst the administration seeks to prepare the substantive budget for 2021.
Speaking of light at the end of the tunnel, usually budget statements, whether mid-year budget reviews or budgets like this one leading into a new year, often come with some...
I'm losing you again, please.
Is it better now? Can you hear me now? I am saying that budget statements, as is characterized, are, finance statements for years down the line, you would realize that they usually come with some goodies. What are the goodies, the good packages to be expected from this budget statement for ordinary Ghanaians? Can you give us some snippets ahead of time?
Well, we would present the usual expenditures. Don't forget that because this is being done to provide us with space to do the substantive budget in March 2021, this is not a place for your usual big budget initiatives. I mean, this is just to hold us. So it would contain the usual expenditures, the thing that cannot wait for the budget or the Appropriation Act in March 2021. Salaries would have to be paid. The basic things, they are essentially what we're going to Parliament to seek approval for. So in terms of goodies, we'll be making hints. I don't want to go ahead of my minister, but we'll be making hints of some of the good things, the recovery strategies that we're going to see in March 2021. But as for the interventions themselves, for which we seek some expenditure approvals, they are your basic expenditures. And that is in accordance with the wisdom that the outgoing and other administration cannot prepare a budget for the incoming and other administration. So it's essentially the basic budget.
Budgets cover such things as electricity and water, free electricity, free water.
You say electricity has done what?
Will the budget cover free electricity and free water going into 2021? Is there any such projection?
Well, the minister is by 11 o'clock, that is some 2 hours and a half from now, will be announcing all that. We will see whatever is in there. But as I indicated, this is essentially something to hold us whilst the broad strategies are rolled out in the 2021 budget statement that would be put out in March 2021.
My final bit to you, Honorable Kwarteng. There's all this talk about Ghana going HIPIC and Ghana being HIMIC, whether a highly indebted, low-medium economy and all of that. In a minute, can you tell all of Ghana watching you what exactly the dynamics are right before you take leave of us?
Ghana is nowhere near HIPIC. This is election year, so we probably should not be surprised to hear some of these things. But
is Ghana HIMIC then? Is Ghana HIMIC?
Is Ghana
HIMIC, highly indebted, low or to medium economy. Is that where we are?
Well, we are neither of those things. Why should we? I just told you that, for instance, debt to GDP, the world's projection, the latest world projection, is 101.5% of GDP. Even the projections done by the IMF is 76 for Ghana. So if Ghana was going to go HIPIC, then every HIPIC or HIMIC or whatever, then every country in the world today will be going HIMIC as a result of the COVID-19 that we have suffered. Right. Ghana is nowhere near HIPIC or HIMIC. I think our economy has done well in the face of COVID-19 pressures.
Right.
And what we are looking to do is to look at the strategies that produce the progress we saw after inheriting the difficult economy in January 2017, the strategies that put us in a position in a position of progress. And we probably do not have space for it. I could explain why until HIPIC, the economy was in a far better shape than we inherited. Those strategies would be used to take Ghana out of the difficulties that have come on us as a result of COVID-19. Right. There's no cause for alarm. The economy is in good hands. The indicators are good.
Right.
HIPIC was unfortunate. COVID-19 was unfortunate.
Unfortunately, on that unfortunate note, Honorable Kweku Kwarteng,
the shocks.
Thank you. This is where we're going to have to wrap up on the conversation. Kweku Kwarteng is a Deputy Finance Minister. Thank you very much for your time. Now, Honorable, if you can hear me, A very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to our listeners.
Great. We also have in the studio Edu Asare, Honorable Edu Asare, Member of Parliament for Adenta. Former Member of Parliament for Adenta, actually. But what should we expect ahead of the delivery of the budget statement for the year 2021, the first quarter at least, especially on the back of some of the recent claims that have been made with regard to Ghana going HIPIC again, as former President John Dramani Mahama mentioned, and the projection, by the IMF that we would have hit a debt to GDP, level of 76.7% by end of year. What should we expect in today's budget statement?
Well, thank you. Today, what we are presenting to Parliament, strictly speaking, is not your usual budget. Now, because we are having an election close of the year, and that there is supposed to be a new administration, even if Nanado won again, it will still be a new Nanado administration. Because of that, you do not want the outgoing government to prepare the budget, which is essentially the tool for delivering on your strategies. You do not want the outgoing one to design a budget for the incoming government. Therefore, the requirement in our practice, the Ghanaian practice, is that in an election year, the outgoing government will do what we call expenditure in advance of appropriation. Now, that is put before Parliament and approved. That gives the new administration, which is going to be a Nanado administration, the new Nanado administration, the tool with which to govern whilst we prepare the substantive budget for 2021, which would then have to be done by March in accordance with Article 180 of the Constitution. So, in summary, what we are taking to Parliament today for approval is in accordance with Article 180 of the Constitution, and it is expenditure in advance of appropriation, which will be done hopefully by the Nanado administration in March 2021. That's what we're taking to Parliament today.
COVID-19 has battered our economy, and growth projections have fallen, beyond expectations.
I'm having difficulty hearing you. If you can lift your voice a little more.
Honorable Kwating, is it better now?
Yes,
can you hear me better
now?
I was asking, is there any light at the end of the tunnel, especially considering that our growth projections for the year have been impacted by COVID-19 to levels that were not expected, and all of that? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? What should we expect, in that respect?
Of course, there is light at the end of the tunnel. COVID-19, of course, has disturbed our country and our economy in some ways. But Ghana is not alone in that. Indeed, if you would look at what COVID-19 has done to other economies, Ghana's economy has a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't want to bore you with the statistics, but if you look at the global projections for year-end deficit, that is year-end projections for monies that countries have spent for which they have no revenue, excess of expenditures over revenues across the world today. You take the average, Ghana is doing far better than that average. If you take debt to GDP, how much we have had to borrow as a result of the pressures of COVID-19 against our GDP, again, Ghana's is better than the world average. So there's lots of light at the end of the tunnel for Ghana. Unfortunately, the minister would make hints of it, even though the the actual features of the Ghana Cares About Tampa program in terms of the estimate would come in the main budget in March 2021. Today we would hint about the Ghana Cares program. Now, if Ghana has a recovery plan that would recover us after, like as has happened in many countries, the difficulties we've gone through in terms of the fiscal pressures, I am confident that in the medium term, we would fully restore the progress that we're making, but for the disturbances of COVID-19. So there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, but what we're taking to Parliament today, as I indicated, is expenditure in advance of appropriation. They are just, if you like, your revenues and expenditures for the first quarter of next year, whilst the administration seeks to prepare the substantive budget for 2021.
Speaking of light at the end of the tunnel, usually budget statements, whether mid-year budget reviews or budgets like this one leading into a new year, often come with some...
I'm losing you again, please.
Is it better now? Can you hear me now? I am saying that budget statements, as is characterized, are, finance statements for years down the line, you would realize that they usually come with some goodies. What are the goodies, the good packages to be expected from this budget statement for ordinary Ghanaians? Can you give us some snippets ahead of time?
Well, we would present the usual expenditures. Don't forget that because this is being done to provide us with space to do the substantive budget in March 2021, this is not a place for your usual big budget initiatives. I mean, this is just to hold us. So it would contain the usual expenditures, the thing that cannot wait for the budget or the Appropriation Act in March 2021. Salaries would have to be paid. The basic things, they are essentially what we're going to Parliament to seek approval for. So in terms of goodies, we'll be making hints. I don't want to go ahead of my minister, but we're making hints of some of the good things, the recovery strategies that we're going to see in March 2021. But as for the interventions themselves, for which we seek some expenditure approvals, they are your basic expenditures. And that is in accordance with the wisdom that the outgoing and other administration cannot prepare a budget for the incoming and other administration. So it's essentially the basic budget.
Budget cover such things as electricity and water, free electricity, free water.
You say electricity has done what?
Will the budget cover free electricity and free water going into 2021? Is there any such projection?
Well, the minister is by 11 o'clock, that is some 2 hours and a half from now, will be announcing all that. We will see whatever is in there. But as I indicated, this is essentially something to hold us whilst the broad strategies are rolled out in the 2021 budget statement that would be put out in March 2021.
My final bit to you, Honorable Kwarteng. There's all this talk about Ghana going HIPIC and Ghana being HIMIC, whether a highly indebted, low-medium economy and all of that. In a minute, can you tell all of Ghana watching you what exactly the dynamics are right before you take leave of us?
Ghana is nowhere near HIPIC. This is election year, so we probably should not be surprised to hear some of these things. But
is Ghana HIMIC then? Is Ghana HIMIC?
Is Ghana?
HIMIC, highly indebted, low or to medium economy. Is that where we are?
Well, we are neither of those things. Why should we? I just told you that, for instance, debt to GDP, the world's projection, the latest world projection, is 101.5% of GDP. Even the projections done by the IMF is 76 for Ghana. So if Ghana was going to go HIPIC, then every HIPIC or HIMIC or whatever, then every country in the world today will be going HIMIC as a result of the COVID-19 that we have suffered. Right. Ghana is nowhere near HIPIC or HIMIC. I think our economy has done well in the face of COVID-19 pressures.
Right.
And what we are looking to do is to look at the strategies that produce the progress we saw after inheriting the difficult economy in January 2017, the strategies that put us in a position in a position of progress. And we probably do not have space for it. I could explain why until HIPIC, the economy was in a far better shape than we inherited. Those strategies would be used to take Ghana out of the difficulties that have come on us as a result of COVID-19. Right. There's no cause for alarm. The economy is in good hands. The indicators are good.
Right.
HIPIC was unfortunate. COVID-19 was unfortunate.
Unfortunately, on that unfortunate note, Honorable Kweku Kwarteng,
overcome the shocks.
Thank you. This is where we're going to have to wrap up on the conversation. Kweku Kwarteng is a Deputy Finance Minister. Thank you very much for your time. Let's come back into the studio. Honorable Edu Asare is still here with us. So this is what we're going to do. We have just a few minutes to wrap up. First of all, what is your reaction to what Honorable Kweku Kwarteng has said? And maybe what would be your expectations ahead of the budget statements reading for today?
Well, it's quite intriguing to hear my friend Kweku Kwarteng continuously trying to create the impression that it is the same government that is going to inherit itself. And if you looked at me when he was talking, I kept on, smiling at myself.
Right.
Because
we're pressed for time. So
I think that this is an economy that is in tatters. We know the truth. The indices do not show or do not support what my brother seeks to want to present. If you are talking about an economy that has been mortgaged, ESLA has been mortgaged, this other one, debt fund has been mortgaged, the stabilization fund has been depleted. I mean, this is a government that knows how to waste money. You understand? They are not putting any money anywhere in terms of investment or anything capital in terms of capital investment.
Right. Do you have any expectations ahead of today's budget statement?
He told you that he said don't expect anything other than the ordinary. He himself said so.
But he
didn't say anything.
He did indicate. No, he said that he didn't want to, jump the gun, but that all of those would mention.
Do you think if he had anything new to say? I said what they are going to do is to ensure that the regulars in terms of salaries and whatever. Those are the things that the expenditures for the next 3 months. They are not bringing anything new. And he knows there is nothing to show. And he's giving you a snippet of whatever to be expected. I mean, if he had any good thing to tell you, I'm not sure he would have kept it. We will all be here in the next 2.5 hours. We will know that this government is empty.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Edu Asare, former Member of Parliament for Adenta. You're also in the thick of things as far as the NDC's campaign is concerned.
The Director for Special Duties.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, so that's a bit of our political conversation for this morning on the AM show. But we're going to take a break from here. And of course, more action coming your way on the show. Do stay with us.
Security clearance and things.
APCO, which is the VRA-owned one. Then we have the AMERI, which is being administered for government by VRA. And then we have the T3, which is also in Aboise. Then when you come to the eastern, we have the Thermal Power Complex, which is made up of the Mines Reserve Plant. We have a frame 9 machine also, they call the TT1PP. Then we have the Siemens plant called the TT2PP. Then we have the PON. The other one's PON. This one is the PON and the PON. With the G. Okay. With the G is the hydro one, and then with the E is the one at the thermal plant. Okay. That one too, we have a 220 megawatt power facility there. So in all, then if you take the solar bit of it, we have the Northern Navrongo power, solar power plant. Then we have the Laura, which was recently inaugurated by the president. So these the power stations that we have. Yes, a lot. All under VRA. So we consider at least we are diverse in our power generation, hydro, which is renewable, thermal, and then the solar. We'll be venturing to the wind very soon.
So you've obviously come a very long way. You've obviously come a very long way with your operations. Yeah. Can you share some of the successes with us in terms of your achievements? Okay.
To start with, I would say that as an indigenous power plant or a company, all our power stations are being operated by the indigenous. We don't have any expatriate manning or managing of our power facility. We operate it ourselves, we maintain it ourselves, and we manage it ourselves. Since 1961, at least, we've progressed from hydro to thermal. The first thermal plant which was established in the country was the Aboise Thermal Power Station. We've expanded beyond that one. Now we are into solar. And I can say that at least we are the leaders. Previously, we had a monopoly. Per the Act in 2005, we took the transmission from us. The IPPs came on board. By us, we have about 60% of the capacity stored of this country. So we still have that majority share of power generation, yes.
All right, well, thank you very much. The future also looks really good. I think earlier you did touch on a few of what you intend to do in the future. Maybe you can help us with some of the details. Okay.
Going into the future, what we are looking at is VRA become more of with the mindset of a private mindset in the public sector. So we are trying to have all those power stations to operate on their own, and then we are venturing into the wind. So the wind is the next portfolio that we are bringing on board, and also expand and convert all our simple cycle plants to combined cycle plants, at least to keep our market share, and also to export to the sub-region. As we sit now, we export about 200 megawatt to Benin, Togo, and Burkina Faso. We want to go beyond Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso. We want to go to Mali, and then go to Singapore. So we are working with our transmission company, Grico, to extend the transmission to Mali, where we can export more power to Mali. So this is what we are looking at least expand our operations and also to move the business forward as we progress in our years.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Kenzo, for talking to us. Stay with us. We've got many more other people to speak to. You're still watching Joy News and, of course, the AM show. Where the Volta River Authority is launching its 60th anniversary today. Joining me is the head of procurement at the VRA. Hello, good morning.
No, I'm sorry, I'm the chief learning officer.
You're the what?
Chief learning officer of VRA.
Chief learning officer.
VRA Academy and VRA schools.
Okay, all right. So you're in charge of the VRA schools, the academy and the school. What's the difference?
The academy focuses on the training of staff of VRA, and then the power utilities in the sub-region, that is largely West Africa and Africa. The VRA schools, to a large extent, is focusing on the public. That's our kids and people within our environment. So that's the basic distinction between. So the academy is more of corporate training, and then the schools is more public, normal, basic, and SHS training. Yeah.
Okay. How many schools do you have?
Well, we have, if I should break them down, we can categorize them into 4. We have the basics. The basic school, we have Akuse, we have Akosombo, and we have Aboise. And then when it comes to SHS, it's only one in Akosombo. That is the AIS. Yeah.
The Akosombo International School is quite popular as well.
Yeah.
And you allow people from outside to also patronize?
Yes.
All the schools?
All the schools, yes. And there's all the community areas. Anybody who can apply and go through the process of admission, you can gain access to the place. Yeah.
Obviously, because of COVID-19, all the schools are closed.
Except that now we have the JHS2 who have resumed. So they are on campus now.
Describe the kind of learning environment that you have at the VRA.
The learning environment, in fact,
you're talking about the learning environment.
Yeah, the learning environment before COVID-19, we're doing basically a combination of classroom learning, on-the-job training, and then field training. Classrooms, basically the normal classroom settings that we create that platform for people to learn. And then the field attachment is where we attach you to the power utilities across, and sometimes some departments to go through the process. And then we have the field work. The field work has to do with the workshops and the laboratories where we send you to go through the various skills that you're supposed to go through. Now, with the advent of COVID-19, we've introduced the e-learning, the online webness and stuff like that into our portfolio. And so we're blending it with that. We're not doing that for only VRA staff. We're doing it for the sub-region as well. We train member utility companies in the sub-region, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, mainly the Anglophone community, and as well as the Anglophone community in Africa. So we deliver, now we are repackaging our programs online to reach out to them because of the COVID-19. So to a large extent, the learning environment is good. Apart from that, we have a knowledge management unit where we capture lessons learned from all projects from A to Z. All major projects about VRA is captured there and stored where people can have access to read. You know, we have a virtual library. We have, you know, we blended the IT and all these things into the physical learning space where we can easily have access to materials to learn to develop ourselves.
Well, thank you very much. Happy anniversary as you launch. Enjoy today.
Right. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. Great. One more person that we're going to talk to, and we're basically gauging the environment also for young persons. So Marian is a young person at the Volta River Authority. She's going to be sharing her experiences with us as she's been working with the authority for some time now. She joins me right about now. Marian, good morning to you. So for how long have you been with the VRA?
21 years.
Are you kidding me?
21 years.
So you went there like fresh from school?
Fresh from school. Basically, I think a year after national service, after the university. And I joined through the management training route, where you are trained on the job. And so it's classroom sessions at the academy, intermittent with going around on rotation. And so you get a whole view of the organization. So although I am a non-technical person, you go to technical departments and it gives you that holistic view of the organization so that you know how you on your desk is contributing to the organization.
So what's your area of specialty?
Now, my area of specialty is procurement. Procurement and supply chain, yes.
The way you're smiling, that's not what you studied at school.
That's not. I was at the School of Administration, then now University of Ghana Business School, and I did marketing and psychology. Basically, that's what I did. And then on the management training routes, because you go to different departments, you get to see other aspects of the industry you were not exposed to whilst at school. And I think in my rounds, I went to procurement. Actually, I went there as an administrative officer. And then with time, I was actually moved into mainline procurement.
So how was it like working with the VRA? You've been there for 21 years.
Okay. I mean, it's a good place to work. It's a good place to grow your talents. As you go along, you are prepared or trained and developed for the position you have at the time. So I have gone through the officer cadre, through manager to the director position now. And so you are trained for this and for the future with coaching and mentoring along the line.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing the experience with us here on Joy News.
Welcome.
And enjoy the anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so basically that's it. Talking to some VRA staff live here on Joy News. We're getting ready for the start of the event itself. That will be live here on Joy News. So please stay with us. Back to you, Benjamin, in the studio.